Lionel, is that you?
There, I think I got it.
But I usually get a little butter on it, melting down. A little blue cheese if you got it.
Well, I had good seafood this weekend. We found a hole-in-the-wall little place, man. They had some of the best seafood. It was unbelievable. Wow.
And where was this?
In Jacksonville, North Carolina.
Jacksonville, North Carolina?
Yep.
Where's Jacksonville, North
Camp
Carolina? Camp Lejeune.
Yep,
How do you spell spell your daughter? It's Reagan, right?
Ragon. Yep.
Where'd you get that name?
My wife's best friend's last name was that, and while my wife was pregnant, she passed away, and we named her Reagan.
Oh, okay, all right. Well, that's kind of cool.
Yeah, it was.
And the other daughter's name is
Kendall.
Kendall. And where'd you get that name?
Not real sure. Her full name's Kendall Scott Lister.
Kendall Scott Lister.
Yep. I think Scott was after me.
Oh, you think? You're not sure? When will you find out?
I don't know. I was going to name her Marion, but that didn't work out too good.
That would have been okay to name her Marion.
Yeah.
Kendall Marion.
It would have been more appropriate.
Yeah, Scott. Seriously?
Unless you're telling us you got interest in the Kendall Motor Oil Company.
Seriously, is Kendall's middle name Scott?
Yeah, it is.
You guys are dopey. You guys are dopey.
Oh, man. My wife's name's Paula Jean.
You have no idea what you have.
That name because she wanted P.
How do you spell her last name?
Yeah, how do you spell her last name?
No idea.
Lister.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
That's like when my son was born. His name was going to be Peter Lionel Strang. And then I, for some strange and peculiar reason, I'm sure Bruce has heard this story before, but I know Mike hasn't. And for some strange and peculiar reason, I had some goofy thing going on in my head about Nick Nolte. I don't know why. I think it was around the time he'd had that goofy picture of him being arrested or something. And anyways, half my jokes were about Nick Nolte or something. And then one night I said, hey, we should name his middle name should be Nick. And my mother-in-law, who wasn't that thrilled that I was on the planet, she says, you can't do that. And I'm like, why not? Well, it's because you're just always kidding about it. You can't put a name in Nick. And I went, oh, yeah?
Watch it.
So now
the paperwork.
His legal name is Peter Lionel Nicholas Strang. He thinks it's hilarious.
That's a cool name.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, exactly.
My oldest daughter is Reagan Riley.
Wow.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's a family name from my wife's side.
Oh, okay. Well, at least it's not Jack or something.
I was going to name her Jack. Yeah.
Or did you say Mary? What's your wife's middle name?
Jean.
And what's her maiden?
And that was really a joke for her because they were going to call her PJ.
Right.
Paula Jean.
Okay.
They never did. Yeah, they just called her B.
B.
Which I have no idea where that came from.
They called her B.
B.
Yeah.
Paula Jean became B.
B.
Yeah, I have no idea where
I'm sure there's logic somewhere in there, but I'm not getting it right now.
Yeah, so I think it's because she was just zooming around like a bee all the time.
So is she originally from South Carolina as well?
Yeah, Charleston. She's proper.
4 minutes.
The evil in the garden, or the Midnight Garden of Evil, or something, isn't it?
Yeah, it was a Charlestonian met a redneck.
Yeah,
you could write a book about that.
Yeah,
well, there you go. You make it into like a Hallmark movie.
And then the redneck became podcast famous. Your wife still probably.
Yeah.
Do you ever talk to your daughters about? Of course, you said your son-in-law listens to the show.
Yeah, he'll hear this one.
What's his name? What's his name? His name is
No, you asked me what his name was. His name is Tucker Blackwell.
Tucker Blackwell.
That's a good handle.
Yep.
So now your
What's his
daughter.
middle name?
Well,
Sergeant Blackwell.
Sergeant, yeah, that's
What's
his middle name.
name?
His middle name. Well, he's this Marine. We can't be letting that's classified information.
That's true. That's true.
Um,
See, I was always confused growing up as a kid because there was Sergeant Shriver, and I always thought that was
I know.
in the Army resident.
Hey, we were listen to this though. When you're a Marine 24/7. We were hanging gutters on his house this weekend
Yeah.
on the backside, and I was out putting them together in the driveway, and he had to run to Lowe's, and there was this guy stopped by, and he said, "Hey, I'm so and so. I just moved in," and he had a Marine suit on, and I didn't know what rank he was. He just had some bars on his collar, and I told my son-in-law, I said, "Hey, this guy just moved in. He's going to come back and help us in a minute." And I told him, he said, "What rank was he?" And I said, "I'm not sure, but he had some bars on his collar." And he said, "Damn it." So he ran in and came back out, and he had shaved. I was like, "Oh my God." Because he hadn't shaved in like 2 days. And he said, "I can't be caught without, clean." I was like, "Man, that is amazing."
So bars are probably captain if it's 2 bars, or
Yeah.
1 bar is lieutenant or something.
He was a lieutenant. I don't remember which, but anyway, it was pretty
Lieutenant
funny.
Dan.
He had to go
Lieutenant
shave his
Dan, yeah.
face.
So this is
Lieutenant
why
Dan.
I got ice cream, Lieutenant Dan.
So this is why when occasionally I will hear from people, occasionally I will see comments, not often, but occasionally I will see comments about the podcast, and somebody will write in and say, or they'll comment somewhere and say, "I tried listening to that, but all they did was talk about middle names and Marines for the first 10 minutes." And I'm like,
That's what we do.
that's why
You're thinking, have you ever listened to our podcast before? You know it takes a while to get going.
Well, that's right. Yeah.
Just ask Rod Dyer.
Well, see, this would be a classic where Rod Dyer would be like, he would have bailed 2 minutes ago.
5 minutes ago.
He's a goner.
Well, we might as well get right to what we're doing here.
Yeah, because this is going to be good.
Yeah. Well, it better be. Yeah, I guess we got to turn our.
Yeah.
We got to do all the stuff that we do in the studio because I hit the button some time ago.
We're not in the flight mode.
Yeah, well, I hit the button. I hit the button. I hit the button 7.5 minutes ago.
Well, absolutely, of course you did. Seconds. And Lionel, we were all here waiting for you, and we did not talk about anything.
I appreciate that.
We just listen to what you were listening on TV.
Yeah.
I went to Disney World today.
Yeah.
You know what? Because this is the day after Super Bowl, and I lost my life savings betting on the Philadelphia Eagles.
Well, there you go.
Well, it's not that funny when you lose your life savings. I mean, I can't even pay the mortgage on my house now.
Yeah, I'm really starting to worry about you.
We'll start a GoFundMe for you.
Well, I got you $20. I'm up $20, and I sent it to you.
Well, you never sent me anything. 2 guys actually did send me money.
I don't know your Venmo. I don't know. How to
well, all right.
that.
I'll send you my PayPal address. Is just my email address. Just go to PayPal and send it there, or send it to go on Venmo and send it to LJ Strang.
Okay.
Blah blah blah. And
but it's funny if you send like $1.93 or something like that.
Yeah. Well, I can
only really send $19.
So Jack, we can send U.S. funds. That's what my PayPal account is. Jack Joe D'Amato. Joe D'Amato. I was talking to him today I was sending him pictures from Pirates of the Caribbean and stuff. Joe D'Amato Joe D'Amato and David Hyde, they stepped up to the plate. They're trying to bail me out.
Good for them.
Yeah. David Hyde's trying to get a mortgage on a second mortgage on his place so he can send me some cash. So
I got about 24 empty beer bottles cash and get you $2.40.
Yeah. So, anyways,
hey, every little bit helps, right?
If you're looking for work, if you're looking for work, Campbell's looking for people to work.
No, I'm not looking. I'm not looking for work. I got a job, keeping you guys in line. That's enough of a job,
like
right
herding
there.
Cats.
Yeah,
it's like herding cats. So we're 10 minutes in, and there's 2 pieces of business we haven't done yet. First off is that we haven't introduced our guest, Mike May.
Yes.
Hi, Mike.
Hello.
This is episode 2 of your 27-part trilogy.
Oh my God, it's getting longer.
Yeah, it is.
He's going,
It's
I'm
reached
not,
critical mass.
he said he's
Right.
not up for the challenge.
Well, I made a list. I made a list of all the things we have to talk about. And here, would you like to hear the list?
Well,
I'd
sure.
like
Well,
to
do you want
hear
to do
it.
that now, or do you want to continue the introductions?
Well, yeah, okay. So, I wasn't going to introduce you guys. We got Bruce the moderately agitated mailboy. We got the table
That's
master.
me.
I got the table master
Hey,
who just came in from
Hello.
enlisting with the Marines, and we got the modeler, simply known as Kelly.
Hello.
Hello. So tonight we're going to continue. Last episode was our first part one of our Mike May visit. This will be part two. I have no idea how many parts we've got, because on my list of things to talk about, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 topics to talk about.
Beautiful.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't even know where to begin. We should try to do something easy, but there is nothing easy here.
There's nothing easy, and as soon as we get into like question 1, you'll have another 15.
That's right.
Yeah.
So, Mike, what's it been 2 or 3 weeks since we last talked to you? How is it? Have you recovered?
Yeah, I would say we've recovered from the season now. I think it's officially winter and downtime right now.
No, I mean, have you recovered
So that
from us?
feels good.
No, I mean, have you recovered from talking
From
to
you? No, never. It just hasn't aired yet, so how would I know?
us? Well, we already talked to you though.
Wow.
Yeah. He's trying to
You were there for the interview, so you should have some idea how it went.
And
True. Oh, that's true.
let's remind everybody. I think Mike Wachowski was one. I think there was one other person, and then Mike May, because I go back and forth from a southern studio and a northern studio. There's something different about the interfaces. They're different generations, and if I don't hit a certain button, they won't work. And when we interviewed Mike once, and I didn't ever hit the button until about an hour in, so we scratched that. But then I realized it was better because there was so much to talk about Mike about. Right? It was like we had a rehearsal.
There you go.
But this time the button has properly been struck.
Can I
Are you
ask a
sure?
question?
You certainly may.
Free or Patreon?
Oh, this is free because it's an episode.
Oh, okay.
You know,
all right.
all interviews, all first-time interviews are episodes, and they're always free. Following the original pattern of the show, was going to be 2 episodes a month, and that's all we were going to do. Yeah, I'm getting to that. I was actually pretty excited. I thought about it 3 or 4 times today. But we've been chit-chatting here for
15 minutes now. Still haven't got into it.
But we need to remind everybody that this free podcast, along with all of our free podcasts and pretty much everything in the AML Nation, is sponsored by our pals over there at Rapido Trains. That's Rapido Trains.
Fast track to model railroading fun.
Yeah, see, I blew it that time. So let's do that again.
Do we try take 2?
Yeah, take 2. So everything is sponsored by our pals over there at Rapido Trains.
Your fast track to model railroading fun.
And their URL is rapidotrains.com. And if I was anybody that was listening to this and you wanted to buy something, you better hustle over there now, because with those new 44 tonners that they got coming out.
Oh, aren't those sweet? Oh my Lord.
Goodness gracious. They're going to be packed. They're going to be so busy taking orders for those that they're barely going to be able to do anything else. So I highly recommend.
Yeah. We saw that running at Springfield. What a sweet little running unit it was. And then they're doing a whole pile of paint schemes, including on decks. It's just gonna be another Lincoln Homer.
Yeah, that's exactly what it's going to be.
Yeah.
Like, I just saw it and I was like, oh my God, you're going to sell like a bazillion of these things. I wonder if they're prepared for how many is. I wonder if they can make a bazillion, because they're going to sell a bazillion.
Well, we'll find out. I'm sure. I've got an order in for one in one of the CN numbers.
I'm going to buy a couple, and even though I don't need them, like, that's not going to stop me.
Oh yeah, I know.
They're going to do in multiple phases, detailed variations. Phase 1C, never offered before in plastic, both with and without lighted hood side number boards. Wow. Phase 3 with positionable top hood hatches. Phase 4, heavy die-cast chassis, fuel tank. This thing is going to be awesome. People, and I think maybe I'm wrong. They can't quote me on this, but it seemed to me I thought I saw somewhere where they might be coming in undecorated as well. I don't remember. I can't.
They do have
yellow one.
I think they had undecorated, but they were running like I think 4 different undecorated paint schemes. I think they got a blue,
yellow.
a red, a yellow, and
Oh yeah,
else, maybe. So just a plain paint.
That's right.
Nothing on it.
Here it is: industrial red or industrial blue. Well, that's pretty cool.
Yeah,
The red. See, they're doing the red because that's like Peterson coal.
that's it.
No, hey,
Like those sweet RS1s.
those sweet RS1s. Which brings me to another subject. Mike, are you enjoying yourself so far?
Absolutely.
I forgot Mike is here. Sorry.
Yeah.
You know what? I think I'm. What's the word? What's the word? I'm sandbagging. I'm sandbagging because I don't know which topic to start. You know what I really want to talk to you about?
We did a wheel to spin then.
Yeah. Actually,
Or I can go grab a 10-sided die and roll it.
yeah, that's not a bad idea. And also at Rapido Trains, I was talking to Jordan Smith, who is, I don't know what he's the president or the CEO or something. He's not the CEO. Jason Tron is. Jason Tron corrected me. He owns it with his wife. Him and his wife own Rapido Trains. His lovely wife. What was I going to say? Oh yeah, I said, hey, it'd be really cool if we had some Rapido Trains T-shirts to give out for some sort of a little contest or something. And Jordan was like all over that. He was like all over that. Let me see if I can find the email. Does
Rapido Train have any stickers they can send our way?
I'm working on that. I'm going to handle this. I'm going to handle the stickers from my end. I'm going to be
sticker guy.
I'm going to be all over the sticker situation. I'm going to
Lionel the sticker guy Strang.
Hey, Lionel the sticker guy Strang. I'm going to be all over that. Here it is. Jordan Smith. He said, for sure, that would be great. I think we still have some in the warehouse. I'll check next week when I'm back in the office. So yeah, we'll figure out a way to give out some Rapido T-shirts. And then,
Beautiful.
And then, tell me what you think of this idea, Mike? We might as well just, we might as well just make you part of the crew. This isn't about you tonight. It's about us.
Just chime in when we
just say what you want when you want.
Yeah, I feel like express your opinion. 18 minutes. I am like the last guy on the planet that should have a podcast.
I don't know. I think it's pretty entertaining.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. But is it of any use? It's I kind of see this podcast as the laugh-in of model railroading. There you go.
We need a bunch of doors then to open and close.
Yeah.
I think it's a combination of laugh-in and This Is Your Life.
No, that's not bad. Mike May, this is your life.
Is your life.
And we're going to talk for 20 minutes, and you're not going to get a word in edgewise. We're not even going to ask you. We're not even going to ask you a question.
Oh, boy.
It's quite the interview model.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is, isn't it? Yeah. You know what I had? I thought it'd be really cool if we did some sort of contest. Like, I forget who I was talking to. Forget who I was listening to, but somebody said the Rapido RS-18 was one of their favorite locomotives. And I thought, geez, wouldn't it be cool if we could figure out a contest like sending your photo of your weathered RS-18, and then I would talk the guys at Rapido into giving us like $100 gift certificate or something, and a T-shirt, and an AML T-shirt.
Wow! Keep it going. What else?
That's quite the prize package.
Yeah, really.
What happens to the act before midnight tonight?
Yeah, exactly. But I can't think. I'm sure there's an easy way to do a contest on Facebook, but I don't know what it is. And it's one of those things that you got to figure out. And I'm not in the mood to figure stuff out these days. I'm having enough trouble.
The guy who runs contests is Bernard, our friend Bernard.
Oh yeah, he'd be good.
He does his little peanut butter lid diorama contest. So he's got some experience.
Yeah, let's say we could ask Bernard. He's kind of a regular. Because my biggest problem these days is I'm trying to get the year 5 T-shirt done, and all I want, I've got a great picture of Fred the Sock hanging out the window of an RS1 with the number 5 and AML Nation down the side. And do you think I can get anybody to give me a rendering of this so that it could be put on a T-shirt? I just want an outline of this thing, right? And it's going to be I keep saying it's going to be white on a dark T-shirt. I don't understand why this is so difficult. I can't find anybody that can do this job for me. It's very frustrating.
There's got to be some artistic type in the AML Nation.
Yeah. Well,
there's a listener out there somewhere.
Yeah, there is. Yeah, there has to be. What about you, Mike? You're pretty handy. You're artistic.
No, graphic design is not my thing. I'm often in the same spot you are right now, trying to find someone. There's got to be someone who could do this for me, right?
Okay, all right. That would go back to your fact that you're the vice president in charge of production of the Polar Express.
There it is.
The Polar Express.
There's no bear.
Which I still find fascinating. I'm still stuck on this whole thing that you guys have like 55 licenses out there for railroads of all sizes, and you're in charge of you oversee all the big ones like the what do they call it, the Bright Line in Miami,
Line,
and Chicago, wherever the big ones are, you oversee those. But then there's all these little scenic ones, and I'm thinking, man, there's got to be some wild variations of what you want out there.
It's kind of all over the board.
Yeah,
we do our best to keep it consistent.
Yeah, I can only imagine that at some point you or our buddy with Resource Rails, and his name is
Matt Dowd.
Sorry, Matt. I can only imagine that you or Matt Dowd or some reasonable facsimile of guys in your position have gone out to see one of these Polar Express things, and your eyes kind of get wide and glazed over and go, what are you people doing? I know you can't tell us stories, but
I'm not sure I can comment on that.
Yeah, you can.
You can either confirm or deny.
That's right.
Let's take a try tonight. Okay, go ahead. Were you going to say something?
I was just going to say they're all good though.
Yeah,
they're all hard workers, and
they're all done with the best intentions.
Absolutely.
There you
go.
Let's. I feel like Bert Convey on Password. I'm looking at this list. And I go, let's try, or no, you know what? Even better. I feel like somebody on Jeopardy. Let's try your HO scale railroad for 500, Mike.
HO modeling for 100.
Yeah, let's dive into that subject. Because you have got a fantastic model railroad.
Well, thank you.
And people can find it on YouTube. And would they look under your name, or would they look under the name of the railroad?
On YouTube, it's if you look up White Pass HON3, it usually pops up. It's probably the easiest way to find it.
I put it,
and then on Facebook,
I put in Mike May model. I put in Mike May model railroad on YouTube, and it came up.
Well,
there you
go. More
go.
Famous than I thought, I guess.
Yeah, White Pass and Yukon layout tour. And on Facebook, it is?
On Facebook, it's Facebook/groups/WPYR 1983.
Yeah, could you make that a little bit more? How about if I just put Mike May Model Railroad?
You could probably do that too, but that's the actual address.
Yeah, the actual address is. You'll have to mail that to me or something. We want easy. We want easy addresses.
Easy's good, right?
Yeah, we go for easy here.
And there's probably a way to make that easier, but I don't know. Facebook, I don't know.
Yeah, no, I haven't found it yet. Look at that. Oh, okay. Mike May.
Oh, jeez.
So what? How about I put Mike May Model Railroad Yukon? I bet that'll do it. Boom. Okay, I got
the way we could do it is just keep trying everything on the air, so
there
everyone can just listen until you find the one that works.
Right.
Then type it in.
And now it's time. And Mike, I know you've listened to all of the podcasts and some of them twice. You know what it's time?
Every single one, yeah.
Yeah, you know what it's time for now?
No, I didn't see that episode.
Yeah, elevator music. 25 minutes and we've accomplished absolutely nothing.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Right on
So
schedule.
right on track.
Where we are, right on schedule. Scott's gotten quiet.
Yeah.
Scott's probably working on something.
What are you working on, Scott?
No, I'm sorry. I was falling asleep.
Oh, wow. Bazinga.
He was working on falling asleep.
Yeah, apparently.
No, I'm good. I'm good. No, I was just listening, thinking of how many great games we could play on this podcast.
Yeah. So I did find it. I found it on Facebook. It is the White Pass and Yukon route in HON3, British Columbia and Alaska in 1983. So if you go with White Pass and Yukon in HON3, that'll get you there.
So he went to kind of the Tom Jacobs school of, and Chris Atkins school of naming your Facebook page.
Yeah. The only thing you didn't put in there, or the Scott Lister, the Greenville Northern and blah, blah, blah by Scott Lister. I love how these guys put by, by their.
And I took my Scott Lister off and it won't come off. I have to wait 7 days or something like that before I can do it.
They keep
they don't want you changing it all the time.
You're using your eraser.
Yeah, that's what I need to do.
All right.
But I kind of like that.
Do you?
Yeah.
Oh, that's good.
Okay.
I find it kind of annoying, but I understand where you're coming.
I know, and that's why I like it. That's the only reason I like it, because I know it annoys you.
So, Mike, how did you end up modeling the White Pass in Yukon?
I started with it after I started working for the Durango and Silverton. So I kind of got into narrow gauge originally, just through the Durango and Silverton and all the Rio Grande history and all of that. But once I was doing that, I made a trip up to Alaska. I think about a year or so after I started working here, kind of on a whim. I heard about this railroad and didn't really know much about it, and I guess you could say I just kind of fell in love with it like pretty quickly. It's unique, it's interesting, it's unlike any other narrow gauge railroad that I was aware of or had ever seen. And I've always been a big fan of Alaska and the North and Northern Canada and all that kind of stuff. So it just kind of fit, and I think I really got into it because Rio Grande is almost, it's a hobby, but it's also like my day job in a way, so this was something else. And it sort of separated work from hobby, if that kind of makes sense.
That makes a lot of sense. But what year was this that you decided to go up to Alaska?
I think it was 2006 was the first, maybe 2007, something like that was the first time I'd gone up there.
And why? Like what?
Honestly, on a whim. I enjoy traveling. I love going to unusual places. Somewhere, it sounded interesting. I knew enough about the railroad, just that I knew it was a big tourist operation, and that was fascinating to me, and it looked beautiful. So I just wanted to go see something different.
Yeah, I admitted this on the last podcast, so I can continue along. Like, there's no doubt in my mind that I'm becoming a fanboy because we're having.
I don't know what to think about. I've never had one of those.
Yeah, well, now you got one, buddy. Because this is it just blows. How old were you when you went to Alaska then?
Oh gosh, I was probably 23 or 4 or something like that.
And you're 58 now?
Yeah, no.
30,
I'll be
39.
I'll be 40 in a couple of months.
39, that's right. So, okay, so about 15, 16, 17 years ago, you took a trip to Alaska. Because did you think in the back of your mind, were you thinking, hey, I want to go see that railroad, or hey, I just want to see Alaska, or what?
No, it was definitely, it started with the railroad. I really wanted to go to Alaska too as a whole, but it definitely started with the railroad. That was sort of the impetus of making that trip.
Okay. And
there was
where like, does the Alaska White Pass and Yukon Railroad, does it still exist as a freight railroad?
Not as a freight railroad now. It was, so the railroad now it's purely a tourist operation. And they run on about, a little bit more than half of the original railroad. The original railroad's 110 miles long, and it ran from Skagway, Alaska to Whitehorse, Yukon territory. And that as a freight railroad lasted until 1982, when essentially its last major customer closed down, and it was the Cypress Anvil mine, which they're hauling all the ore to the port in Skagway for. And when that closed, that was basically the death nail in the railroad. There was just no more business, at least not enough business to keep the railroad operating. So it shut down in 1982. And I believe it was, oh gosh, I should actually know this, but it was a couple of years later. So it was like 1988 or 89 that it reopened as a tourist operation.
Okay. I would imagine it's pretty popular as a tourist operation, isn't it?
Yeah, it is the busiest tourist railroad in North America.
Really?
Yeah.
I know
Okay.
it's a beautiful railroad ride.
It is.
They get a
yeah.
lot of traffic from the cruise ships that come in.
That's exactly right. That was a big part of what caused its reopening, was as the cruise industry was starting to promote Alaskan cruises. That was a huge boon for them. So they, I don't know exactly, but their biggest year was probably like 400 and something thousand passengers, which is roughly double what the Durango and Silverton does. And I think we're busy. So
Yeah, and the Durango and Silverton is known as one of the most popular tourist railroads in the United States, the lower 48.
right. Exactly.
And they did double that.
Exactly.
And
But it's captive market. You know, the cruise ships come to town, and
sure,
that's what you
I
do.
understand
So
that. That's what
day
you
in,
do.
day out, they've got all these people coming in. So
Yeah.
it's a very busy railroad now.
Very popular, very profitable, I'm imagining.
I would imagine so.
So Skagway, so just so we can fill everybody in on, by the way, today I was talking to a fella from Switzerland, Rob Fell, and he's a locomotive engineer in Switzerland, and he's a huge fan.
Not anymore.
I'm getting there.
Okay.
Patience.
Okay. Sorry.
Can you, Bruce, are you available to do an interview at 11 a.m. on Eastern Standard Time?
Absolutely.
All right. So I'm getting to that.
Okay.
So he's a locomotive engineer in Switzerland, and now he's going to be a police officer. But anyways, he's a huge fan of the podcast, and he's in Switzerland, right along with our pal. Oh my gosh, Nick. What's Nick's last name? No, I can't remember. But anyways, he works as an equipment manager for a hockey team. Yeah. So we're huge in Switzerland.
Is it Carlson? Nick Carlson?
It is Nick Carlson. Karlsson. See there, Nick? You thought I forgot, and I remember how to spell your last name. We actually have 7 fans, so it's hard to remember everybody's name.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
So we're dreading when we get to the 10 mark.
Yeah, when we get to an even dozen, we're in trouble. So for everybody that we can understand, Skagway is in it's in a part of Alaska, but it's in that little, what's the nickname for that? The little arm that comes off the bottom of Alaska. Is there a nickname?
It's usually just referred to as Southeast Alaska.
Southeast Alaska.
The Southeast.
Yep. And then it goes through a stretch of British Columbia, which is in Canada, and then up into the Yukon. And Bruce, I'm going to turn this over to you, this explanation, because I don't really understand what the Yukon is. It's part of Canada.
Well, it's one of the territories. They don't like to be called the Yukon because it's Yukon territory. But it was one of originally there were 2 territories in Canada. There's the Northwest Territories and Yukon Territory, which were set up to handle government affairs up in the north of Ontario with limited populations. So Yukon Territory has been around a while. Beautiful spots. I've never been up there, but friends have been up there. Absolutely beautiful country up that way. But yeah, so Yukon Territory looks after governing that northwestern part of Canada, and it butts up with BC and Alaska and up to the Arctic.
I actually met a fellow that lived in Whitehorse, Yukon, and I met him. Where did I meet him? I think I met him at the airport in Toronto, somewhere in Toronto, and he was waiting for a flight. Blah blah blah, and with his daughter. And I was very careful not to say, "Well, I bet you wished you lived here all the time, down in the southern part of Canada." And he was like, "No. I love it in Whitehorse. I would never leave." I'd come down for a visit to see somebody, and he loved it in Whitehorse in the Yukon. And their population was like 40,000 people, and he loves it there. And it's up there.
A guy I went to school with lives up in Whitehorse. He may be retired now, but he was working for the government in geology and hydrogeology. So
yeah, so a lot of people that are there love it there. So okay,
it's a beautiful, beautiful town for sure.
Have you? Okay, you've been there because you rode the railway.
Yeah, I've gone up there a couple times just to kind of explore the town. I've never ridden the railway up there because they don't operate that last 50 or so miles.
Okay,
it's been running since 1982, but the town's it's really cool. It's a really neat spot.
So the railway originally went from Skagway to Whitehorse.
Correct.
And when the railroad was abandoned, then a few years later, when they started as a tourist railway, it goes as far as Carcross.
Exactly.
And I wonder why they would, because you said it's 110 miles long or something, the railroad.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder why they wouldn't have reopened that stretch just to keep it maintained or something.
They do keep very minimal maintenance on it, so it's not like, it's not abandoned. It's still it's a part of the railroad company, but I don't remember the last time. I think it's like the early 90s or so was the last time something actually ran all the way up there. So it's been quite some time. Maybe it's like late 80s.
Right. You'd almost think
it's definitely been a while.
Yeah, you'd almost think there'd be like, I don't know, once a month they could run a train all the way from Skagway to Whitehorse, and they would get that tourist crowd that wants to run the whole railroad. You'd think.
Yeah,
anyway.
I could just imagine the cost of the maintenance on that many miles of track just for that minimal operation, though. But they definitely keep it maintained enough that it doesn't like fall back to the elements, so to speak.
Right, in case they ever.
So it's always.
So
it's always an option.
Right, somebody's in the back of their mind has said to themselves, let's maintain this at least to a point where if we ever want to reopen it, we can.
Exactly. Like they don't sell the land off or anything like that.
Right. They don't just turn their back on it. So you've never ridden the railroad.
I've ridden as far as Carcross.
Okay.
As far as I've ridden as much of it as it's open currently.
So how did you get to Whitehorse?
Many times.
Did you ride? Have you ridden?
Whitehorse, you can drive up.
Oh, really?
You can drive up. Yeah. The Klondike Highway goes from Skagway to Whitehorse now.
And what's it? What's it like?
It's a 2-lane mountain highway sort of thing.
And one of the things I like about this podcast
nothing crazy.
One of the things I like doing on this podcast is not hiding my ignorance of subjects. So now I'm sounding like a guy that might maybe, I don't know, live in Greenville, South Carolina, and has never been up there. And I'm going like,
I've been there.
You have not.
So the guy in Greenville has been there, but the Canadian
I
hasn't.
rode that train all the way there and back.
When did you do that?
About 6 years ago.
There you go.
That's the only reason I have hope I will make it to Colorado this summer, because I explained to my wife the railroad that we will go ride in Colorado is a lot like the one in Alaska. So she said, sure, we'll go do it.
Plus, you know a guy.
Yeah, I know a guy now. Yeah,
exactly.
I thought you were taking me.
Well, you can go with me.
Yeah, that would work out well. You, me, and your wife. She'd love that.
Oh, she's fun. Y'all would get along just fine.
I'm sure we would.
Different episode.
Yeah, I'm sure we would, but I'm pretty sure she wouldn't be that thrilled to have me along.
Yeah.
Well, okay, Scott, I understand that you're new to podcasts and you've only been on this one for a couple of 3 years now. But when we're talking about the Yukon and White Pass and the tourist section of the railroad that runs from Skagway to Carcross, I'd really appreciate it if I didn't have to drag it out of you that just a few years ago you rode the thing.
Well, I didn't want it to be all about me.
Trust me, it won't be.
You're right. Yeah, they explained that if you were going up the Yukon Pass when you were going to go stake a claim of gold, you had to carry 2,000 pounds of provisions and all that. It was really interesting.
He knows something about it.
Run that one past me again.
Yeah, when the guys used to go, looking for gold up in those parts of the
Okay.
world.
The gold rush that went over Caribou Pass or Yukon.
Okay,
Yeah,
all
they
right.
had to
White
carry
Pass.
2,000 pounds of provisions, and they had to hire people to help them carry. And I thought, how could they possibly do that? Because when you're riding that train, it is unbelievable territory. I mean, you're riding on the side of the mountain. I mean, you just look straight down. I mean, it's unbelievable, the views.
Yeah,
I'll make your question. It's a Chilkoot Trail, not Caribou Pass.
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, it was before the railroad was built. In order to get to the gold fields, you could either go up the Chilkoot Trail or the White Pass Trail, and both of them would get you to Bennett, British Columbia,
Right.
which I'm not sure was British Columbia at the time, but
The
I
ra-
think so.
The railroad
Yeah,
began.
it would have been.
The railroad began.
It's 1898.
I got a podcast here with 5 people, and 2 of them don't talk.
I'm talking.
You are now. Now that I'm dragging it out of you.
Now that he woke up.
Yeah,
Yeah, now that I'm awake.
yeah. Because once I made a rude remark about a guy from Greenville, South Carolina, wouldn't know anything about it. You go, well, I've been there.
Yeah. I'll show you.
How many times a week do you and I text? A dozen.
Yeah, at least.
We talked to Mike 3 weeks ago. You knew a week before that. Not one time have you said to me, well, I've been on the White Pass in Yukon.
Well, I didn't know we were going to talk about this, Lionel. I thought we were talking about the Colorado.
Well, that's true. Yeah. Okay.
I'm sorry.
No. Yeah. Well. Okay. I'll cut you.
But I will tell you, if you ever go to Alaska and have a chance to ride this railroad, you owe it to yourself to do it, because it is probably, like he said, the best railroad in the whole world that I could think of. Well, I hadn't ridden that one, but to me, it was an unbelievable experience.
And did you go
And
on?
even when we got up there to the top in August, it was August, there was still snow to the windows of the car.
Snow up like as high, piled as high
As the windows of the car. Yeah, it was amazing. I couldn't believe that much snow was up there.
And did you do a cruise or something? Is that how you ended up there?
Yeah, I ended up there because, we took a cruise, and one of the excursions was a train. And I said, I'll go do that. I didn't know anything about it. And when I got there, I was like, oh my God, this is unbelievable. That was worth the whole trip. I'd go back just to do that.
Okay. We'll take the bus up there.
Yeah, because that was better than the helicopter ride over to the glacier, where I straddled a 700-foot crack. And I was like, wow, this is really dangerous. The guy said, if you fell in there, no one would ever find you. And I'm like, maybe I shouldn't fall then.
Yeah, good thinking. Good
Yeah.
thinking.
Good choices.
Oh boy.
Says the guy. Yeah, says the guy that breaks his wrist at Disney World.
Yeah, really. That's what my wife said. You do know you're a little clumsy, right?
What are we? 45 minutes in, and we've asked Mike like 3 questions.
Yeah, he's had some very good explanations and answers.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so up until you went and rode the White Pass in Yukon, you didn't have any desire to necessarily model it.
No, I really didn't.
And then once you got on this train and rode it, you were like sold.
Pretty much, yeah. It was pretty instantly. It was just kind of like, this is a really cool prototype.
And then how long ago did you start this railroad?
I actually started this layout. I think it would have been like the summer of 2011 or so.
Okay.
So it's a little over 10 years ago.
And what's the overall?
But I had.
Go ahead. But you had.
I was just gonna say, I've been starting to model White Pass equipment and stuff like that. Pretty shortly thereafter, I went up there. It took a while before I started a layout on it, though.
So how hard has it been to model HON3 in kind of a diesel era? Because it's not very common.
Oh, it's really hard.
I can imagine.
There's nothing that's actually available. There's a handful of things, but I mean, some of that works for me though, because a lot of what I really get out of the hobby is just sitting and working on a specific model for a long time. To me, it's not necessarily about having a giant layout or anything like that. So I spend 99% of my time modeling is at the workbench, not necessarily working on the layout itself.
Yeah.
Wow.
So hasn't
I know
really
somebody
bothered
just
me
like
that it's a
that.
hard prototype. So
What was that, Scott?
I said I know someone just like that.
Yeah. But isn't that, I mean, isn't that kind of the hidden, I mean, it's also like that discussion is kind of where I think that eventually the hobby is going to come full circle back to all these people that have gotten into the hobby with ready to run stuff. I think eventually they want to try modeling, actual modeling.
I think you're absolutely right.
Yeah, I see it already happening, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
How about you, Kel?
Around these parts, anyway.
Yeah, I think it's the natural evolution. Is that really one of the things that draws you to model railroading? It's the construction and the building a structure or a car or whatever. I think that's part of the fascination of the hobby. Is once a week, couple of times a week, spending a couple hours at the workbench working on
Yeah, if you're going to build a prototype railroad, you almost have to do that. That's why, like, a lot of times people will ask me, why are you doing S scale? And I'm like, well, no matter what scale I go model, I'm going to have to scratch build every building to look like the buildings I model. And there's nothing out there that I could buy that looks like the facilities I'm modeling. So might as well model something where you have to do it,
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, I totally agree with that.
Yep.
And then doing
there's no reason for me to even look. I just go, okay, I need this building, and I'll go build this building.
So your locomotives, Mike, on your layout. How did you build? Are they completely scratch built?
They're not. So in HON3, like, we can go over everything very quickly that's ever been produced in brass. So most of my engines are brass. So there was Precision Scale did the Alco DL535, which is their primary motive power at the end. They also did the 90 class locomotive, which is the shovel nose.
So slow down there a bit.
Slowing down.
So Precision Scale did the one, like the 104 diesel. What did you say it was?
They're called the DL535, which White Pass called the 101 class engines.
Okay. And were they specifically made for White Pass, do you think, or are they? I mean, 3-foot scale or narrow gauge isn't very popular in diesel in North America. So do you think they were purpose built for the White Pass?
They weren't. The DL535s weren't. They were actually. It was an off the shelf model that Alco built, and their intention was it's a regaugeable model. So it was an export design for them. It basically, when you look at it from the side, there's very little that hangs below the frame. So there's nothing that interferes with the trucks. So they were designed that you could put 3-foot gauge trucks under it, 3-foot 6-inch, 40-inch. It was designed for or meter gauge. And there are DL535s around the world. They're not crazy everywhere, but there's definitely some that run. I believe in India. I believe Brazil has them or had them. But places like
South
that.
America, there's a number of railroads I think had that.
Yeah. So they were. It was definitely an export model. But these are the only ones that were ever used in North America.
So can I
White Pass?
So can I ask a really dopey question? Like, I understand a lot of the questions are dopey, but this one in particular seems really dopey to me, and one I've had rolling around in my brain for years and years and years. So I mean, 3-foot gauge, like the standard gauge is 4 feet 8.5 inches, and the only reason I can come up with was that it was 4 feet 8.5 inches was because Kelly was in charge. It was supposed to be 5 feet, and somehow he misread the tape. Yeah, misread the tape, or decided.
Or no, he was trying to invent the tape, and it didn't work right.
Yeah, or he did it from the outside of the rail or something. I don't know. And
I
was holding the other end.
Wait a minute. They told me they wanted to save money, so they made it narrower.
Okay. Somebody's breaking up. Sounds like you're breaking up a little bit. Is the new technology?
Kelly was sounding weird.
Kelly
still sounding weird?
Not now. Well, no weirder than usual.
Well,
That's right across the plate.
That was right across the plate.
that one's out to the bullpen in center field there.
Yeah, that one should have had a stewardess that flew so far. Okay, so the question I've had rolling around in my brain forever is, you?
Get it out. You
Well,
can
I'm
do
trying.
it.
Like it
Sound
seems.
it out.
Sounds like
Sound it out.
It seems like
Right there.
It seems like 3-foot gauge is really narrow for machines of this size. Even on the Durango and Silverton, it seems like the last thing I want to be doing is riding along the side of a mountain in a piece of equipment that size that seems really tipsy to me. Like it seems like
They're no tipsier than the other stuff.
yeah, well, but I wasn't. Yeah, but they're pretty big, and they seem. I didn't say it was a logical question. I said it was a question that's been rolling around in my head for years, and it just seems like 3-foot gauge seems like really narrow. Like when you're riding on a locomotive on the Durango and Silverton. Like, is there lots of room in the cab?
Yeah, I'm there. It's it's not as big as some standard gauge stuff, but they're like our equipment is very large narrow gauge equipment, as is the White Pass, and it's about as large as it's about as large as it gets on 3-foot gauge. There's always some weird examples out there, but no, they feel roomy. I mean, for me too, like I'm so used to it that when I go back to being around standard gauge equipment, it seems huge.
Right.
It seems absurdly huge to me.
So this DL, what did you call it?
The DL 535.
The DL 535. When it was purpose built to be 3-foot gauge by Alco, but it could be the trucks could be widened. It wasn't a 4-foot 8-inch locomotive with narrow trucks. It was a narrow locomotive where the trucks could be widened.
Correct. It was, and like I don't think they would have ever made one standard gauge.
Right.
It was meant for all the world narrow gauges, meter, 42, 3-foot, 3'6", all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Okay. And so when were these locomotives have been built?
Those were 1969.
And the shovel nose one, the ones that has the slope front that kind of looks very European.
Yep.
When were they built?
Those were built by General Electric, and those were the first diesels. Well, the first road diesels that the White Pass had, and they were built. Oh gosh, this is a test of my knowledge. I think don't quote me. I think it was 1954.
Yes,
maybe earlier than that. No, 1951 possibly. But they were built in a lot of orders. So they were built over the course of probably like 12 or 13 years. So White Pass never really had any money. So when they wanted to dieselize, they built the first two, the 90 and the 91. And then a couple of years later, they built, 92 through 94. And then a couple of years later, they put another order in. So it took them a long time to get the 11 that they ultimately had.
And do you think some other places had this locomotive? Some other places in the world had this locomotive?
I don't think anybody else had exactly the same locomotive, but there are others out there that are very, very similar, built by GE. So I think there was a lot of, similar patterns, but if you start to look at them, they're definitely not exactly the same model.
Okay. And I can't imagine they'd be that powerful, would they?
The first ones were 900 horsepower, and then they were upgraded to 1,000 or 1,200, depending on the model.
Yeah, I think an RS1 is like 800 horsepower or something like that.
Sounds right. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I'm assuming you did some sort of research. You sound like the kind of guy that would. Boy, we're an hour into this thing and we've hardly done anything. We could be talking to Mike till like September.
Well, I guess we're gonna have like 38 episodes now. We were at 27, I think.
Yeah,
right?
we're gonna. The world record is Tony Custer with 6. So we'll see where we end up.
Oh, that's
but that was boring. What a joke!
I don't.
I'm joking. I was trying to be funny. Right?
Were you? Oh, okay. Well, at least you're talking. At least you're talking. Yeah. Kelly over there, he doesn't understand the basic purpose of a podcast. Kelly, one day we're gonna do one, and it's gonna be just you hosting. It'll be an hour and a half of silence. I'm kidding. I'm sorry. That was rude, and I apologize.
You should.
Are you there, Kelly? He's gone.
He's poking now.
I think he's gone.
I'm here.
Oh, all right. So I'm assuming you've done research and you know the history of the White Pass and Yukon Railroad. Like construction began in the 1898 or the 1900s, early 1900s, because of the Klondike Gold Rush. I mean, it must have been just a hellacious railroad to try to build.
Oh yeah, I mean, I can't imagine. I can't imagine going back in time and seeing all that.
Yeah,
but it's the first 20 miles that are just unbelievable. I mean, it goes from Skagway's obviously at sea level, and it follows the Yukon River for the first, or I'm sorry, not the Yukon River, follows the Skagway River for the first 3 or 4 miles, something like that. So it's basically river grade. And then from there, by milepost 20.4, it climbs 3,000 feet.
It's unbelievable. Yeah.
It just goes up forever with no relief.
So in the first 20 miles, it climbs 20,000 feet.
3,000 feet.
3,000 feet. Sorry.
20,000 feet would be like climbing up Mount Everest.
Yeah. Okay. I
Yeah.
fell asleep there.
Yeah. But yeah, it's very steep. It's all between 3 and 4% grade, just continuous all the way up the hill.
So I'm assuming all the trains were pretty short.
They were in the early years, yeah.
Even with diesel, I mean, how much could you pull up a 3 or 4% grade?
When they were at the height of their heavy traffic with ore, like post 1969, for that the last 12 or 13 years of the existence of the railroad, there's plenty of trains that would run 70 cars long with 10 engines.
Wow. Yeah. So you start building this railroad. What size is your everybody should check out this YouTube video. Mike May's model railroad. Put Mike May's White Pass and Yukon, and you'll come to it. So what's the overall size of your layout?
The whole layout is it's linear. It's along a wall, so It's about 27 feet long.
Okay, and
it's about 18 inches deep.
That's perfect. This goes to a discussion we often have. So you have operations on it, don't you?
Yeah. Generally speaking, it operates like a big switching layout. It's basically got 2 switching areas and trains move between the 2. But it is operable for sure. We do operating sessions and have a great time. But it's not, it's not like running on an empire the size of a basement or something like that.
No. But I understand that. You live in Durango, Colorado, so it's not like a hotbed for model railroading. Although there's more there.
Exactly.
There's more there than would be than you would realize. I mean, that goes with everything in model railroading. It's like there's so
exactly.
So how many guys what is the ideal number of guys to operate the railroad?
I would say it takes at least 4. It takes someone to run each terminal, and then it takes a road crew and a dispatcher. Realistically, we usually have, 8, 9, 10, something like that. But there's a lot of just, trading off, or someone's learning, or
you have 8, 9, or 10 operators.
Yeah, but you can't keep all of them busy at the same time.
No, but I think
but rotating in and out and stuff.
I think my question was going to be, it's hard. Is it easy to find 8 or 10 operators?
Yeah, here it is just because the Durango and Silverton's here, so there's kind of a hotbed of an interest in railroading. I would say in the average town of this size, probably not. But yeah, there's always a lot of people that are interested in doing it. I mean, most of the time it's a lot of professional railroaders that are over.
Really? See, that's that's interesting. Though. Let's not blow past this. Because this is really why you're so annoying, is because you got so much interesting stuff to talk about. So, I mean, Okay.
Really annoying.
Yeah, you are. You're really seriously. By this point now, we've probably talked to you for 3+ hours, and I'm just annoyed.
So the episode count's going down now.
No.
Instead of
No,
38,
no,
we're
it's
down to
not.
like
It
31.
goes up.
No, it's not about
Oh, it's
me.
up again.
It's not about me. It's about the listener.
Right.
I don't have to enjoy myself while I'm doing this. I just got to make sure I do a good job. So, but isn't that like? I find that to be fascinating in a town the size of like these are the kinds of questions I always want answered. Like, so you're saying to me, so you built this model railroad, and I'm assuming you started in 2011, so probably took you 5 or 6 years to get it to an operating standpoint. Would that be correct?
Yeah, that's about right.
Yeah, so roughly 5-6 years ago, you started operating. So how did you find operators for this railroad?
It's just started with. I knew a lot of modelers in town already, whether or not the layout was operational, and a lot of that is through working for the DNS. There's, we all kind of know each other and sort of had a crew put together from the beginning of like, hey, let's try operating it. I think I've got it to a point where we could actually do something. And it took us several times to really kind of figure out how to run the layout. Really figure out what the operating scheme is going to be.
And were these guys operating other model railroads, or you just they were model builders? You said, hey, come on over and let's try operating.
More model builders, and we kind of figured out how to do it. Because there are a couple other model railroads in town that are, of an operable size, but I wouldn't say it's operating sessions aren't a big thing here. There's a lot more model builders than there are operating layouts.
Okay. And you found these, and they don't necessarily all work for the Durango and Silverton. They're just out around town.
Yep.
I think there's like way more people that fit that category of people that are model builders, really interested in model railroading, but may not ever build a layout, but they love building the models and being part of the hobby. I think that's where the hobby is way bigger than anybody realizes. I think there's a huge interest in the hobby, and to get to that point where you might build a model railroad that's the next kind of level, or maybe not even the next level. It's just something that doesn't interest a lot of people. They just like being in the hobby and the people they meet. I'm just kind of fascinated by the fact that, what'd you do? Write something on a piece of paper and tack it to the bulletin board at the Durango and Silverton station? Or hey,
no, it was kind of.
All right,
let's ask one person. It's like, who else do you think would be into it? That it just kind of grows. It's just sort of organic like that.
Yeah.
Everyone kind of knows someone else, and like even now, we'll have an operating session, and almost every time I have one, I'll text a bunch of the guys, be like, hey, let's do one next week on Thursday or whatever it is, and inevitably someone says, oh, have you met such and so? Can I bring them by? And I'm like, no, I don't know who that is, but bring them by. It's like you say, there's always people that are interested in it that may not really be involved, but then they become the ones who are even more interested and continue to be involved and might start building their own layout or something like that.
Yeah. I think.
Did you ever ask how big his layout actually is?
Yes, that's when you were sleeping. It's 26 feet long.
Oh, okay.
26 feet long by 18 inches wide.
Wow.
Which is,
I was just looking at that video. That's why I was asking.
I know. Isn't it fascinating when you look
at it? It's unbelievable.
Yeah. And part of that for you, Mike, is the fact that you love, like you say, 95% of your time is as at the workbench working on this or that.
Yep.
And
I
go ahead.
I kind of, like taking that idea and applying it to the layout. One of the things that was sort of a mission of this layout from the get-go is I didn't want to have a plywood empire for a long time because I've done that before. So I wanted to make it small enough that I felt like I could get it to a point that it appears finished. I mean, I think we all know that the layout's never actually finished, but I wanted it to at least like have that look to it, like pretty early in construction, right? I didn't want to spend years just trying to tackle something that was bigger than I had the time for or whatever. So,
Right.
it's the same concept of, I like to spend time at the workbench. Like I liked working on the layout and like building the scenery, but I wanted it to be like the scenery was a project of its own. So I wanted that to be something that was accomplishable with the means that I had and the time that I had,
Yeah, exactly.
It's not to say that a giant empire can't be accomplished, but I wasn't going to do that working full time too. So,
how did you decide on 18 inches wide? Like, what was there some sort of in some part of the layout you could only have it 18 inches wide? Like that's not very wide, a foot and a half. So how did you come up with that?
Honestly, I have no idea. I wanted it to be a shelf layout, and I just started messing around. Like the very first iteration of it was just, let's throw some track and switches down on a piece of brown paper and just start laying things out and see what fits and what looks right. And
there you go.
Somewhere in that process, the sizing worked out and 18 inches made sense. And there it was. I wasn't abiding by any particular standard or, it's, I don't know. It fit. I kind of knew some of the locales I wanted, It started with Bennett. That was the first piece of the layout that I built. So I sort of knew what the track layout needed to be. And Bennett, British Columbia.
Okay, and why there? That's halfway between Skagway and Carcross, which is where the railroad runs to now. So why Bennett?
It's beautiful.
Okay.
It struck me when I was up there, when I visited. That's kind of it. It seemed like a good place to build as a locale, because it's a little yard, and
right.
The track layout just kind of made sense for what I was going for.
And did you hang?
It's beautiful.
And did you hang out in Bennett for any length of time, like stay overnight or something, or?
No, I've been up there several times now, but Bennett's real remote. You can only get there by rail or hike or a helicopter or something like that, so it's real remote. So the way that, the operating practice changes year to year, but when I first went up there, the railroad was running a Bennett train that would just go to Bennett, had a layover of, 2 hours or whatever it was. You can go explore, get back on the train and leave. So I've done that. So I've been to Bennett several times for 2 hours at a time.
And it has a huge station there.
It does, yeah.
Which I'm assuming has been refurbished due to the tourist railroad.
Yeah, it's been refurbished several times over its life, but recently, in the tourist era, it's been remodeled. It's definitely well kept.
Bennett, and I know Kelly, you have a question you'd like to ask about Bennett.
I'm looking at his Facebook page at the moment.
Did you build the bridge?
I did.
Sorry.
You did? Okay. Because I didn't see it on the video, but wow, I bet that was an amazing build.
There's a bridge at one end of
this railroad.
There's a bridge at one end or the other of Bennett.
Which bridge are you talking about? Are you talking about the Dead Horse Gulch Bridge?
Yeah,
the giant
Dead Horse.
No, I've not built that. I've not built that one. I thought you're talking about something you're looking at on the picture.
No, I was just remembering that big bridge. I can remember. I'm like, wow, that would take a lot of room to build that.
That would be huge. It'd be a very cool model. I'd love to do it, but it's, gosh, I don't even know.
Yeah, it would be
how
tough.
much space it would take.
Yeah,
it's enormous. I bet it'd be like 6 feet long or something like that in HO.
Probably if you did it in HO, and you would condense it down even more than that.
Yeah,
probably.
Yeah, it's an amazing structure.
Yeah.
Mike, have you ever considered maybe trying to become a master model railroader?
I already have, actually.
Yeah, I know. I just saw that.
Wow.
Yeah, nice segue.
Yeah. Hey, this isn't
model railroad.
This isn't my first rodeo. That's something you should be applying for. Scott, that's something you should be applying for.
Yeah, really.
I've been discussing that a bit with Mr. Lister.
Oh, have you?
Yeah,
yes,
he's coaching me along.
He's coaching you. Oh, okay. So
he's
go ahead.
I was going to say he's done enough that he probably could get a lot of his certificates.
Yeah. Well, be careful with Bruce because he's still got my dispatcher certificate.
When he gets them, he holds on to them.
Yeah, he doesn't give them out. Yeah. So when did you get your MMR?
It was last September, last October.
Yeah.
Yeah, last fall.
And what number are you?
That's so cool.
What number are you?
That's a hard question.
713.
Yeah, 713. That's right. I had to turn around and look at it.
But you haven't been in the magazine yet. In the
No, I haven't.
which is a shame.
So what made
Sounds
you?
like I'm going to get on the podcast first.
Yeah, there you go. Nice one. Nice one.
Gotta go to the best first.
Wow, he's got a Tim Hortons cup on his desk too.
Yeah.
It's Canada.
Yeah, that's true. Well, Durango isn't though.
Well, but that's the dispatcher's desk for the White Pass.
Yeah,
that's true,
So-
Bennett. Yeah, that's true. And you have a little dispatcher's board.
I do.
CTC. Yeah.
And what's that?
So
all?
what?
Go ahead.
Well, so one of the things about the layout, like in my concept of this layout, I made it be 1983, for kind of a specific reason, is that the railroad closed in 82, and so I wanted it. There's a little bit of artistic license, to modify it and make it be kind of what I want it to be. Even like I try to keep it very. I mean, I go for realism, right? But every now and again, there's something where it's like, well, I want to incorporate this or that, and maybe they never had it. So I went with this story of, say the mine didn't close and the railroad stayed busy. So I model everything kind of as it existed in 82 at the very end. But that delay or that extension of its life gave me the opportunity to do stuff like put signals in. And that was just a thing that I thought was cool, like I've always been interested in that kind of stuff. So I wanted to put a signal system in it.
So there were no signals, but you put them in.
Exactly. The railroads. It's always been a dark railroad. But what I did, I kind of emulated what the Alaska Railroad's operating practice was years ago, where Alaska Railroad would have crews leave from either end of the railroad and meet at a place called Hurricane, and in the dead of winter, having to meet in the middle of nowhere, that's a lot of shoveling of switches, and you got to walk a long way to line switches, and it's the whole thing. So what Alaska Railroad did was they put CTC in, centralized traffic control signaling, only at Hurricane. And that way they could remote control that siding and get two trains by each other and send them on their way. So I thought that was kind of a cool practice, and Alaska Railroad, White Pass, and Yukon, it all sort of fit for me. And there was sort of a standard practice back in the day at White Pass too, of a Canadian crew leaves Whitehorse, goes to Bennett, American crew leaves Skagway, goes to Bennett, they swap trains and go home. So it was sort of the same kind of idea. So I fictionalized it and put CTC signals in at Bennett, much like the Alaska Railroad did.
Okay. Let me ask you.
Very cool.
I got a question for you that I think is a good question. Feel free to contradict me if you want. But this is something I think you're an ideal guy to discuss this with, because I think you have the right demeanor to discuss this with. I'm always fascinated by people that want to model the prototype.
Mm-hmm.
And I model the prototype. But invariably, they go off track from the prototype, and they make up their own version of the prototype. I'm getting to the question. It's going to be a long trip to get there, but trust me, I'm getting there. So, which I don't really have a problem with. I don't have any problem with any kind of aspect of model railroading, but I'm always fascinated by people who I model the prototype, unless, of course, X, Y, and Z happen. So this is my version of the prototype, which, of course, at that point, it is no longer the prototype. You're just basically freelancing a model railroad based on a particular prototype. But I think it's what makes the hobby so appealing is that, you can model the equipment, you can model the cars, you can model, the track plan of Bennett and everything else. And then you can take something from the Alaska Railroad and throw it onto your railroad to make your model railroad more interesting.
Yeah.
So I think my question is, like, obviously you don't have a problem with that, but don't you think that that's kind of part of the magic of the hobby, is the fact that people are way more artistic, whether you're an electrical guy or a structure guy or an equipment guy. The beauty of one of the things that draws people to model railroading is they can have this license to be constantly be creative. I mean, it seems like it fits perfectly into your personality, where you're basically a creative guy, and this is an outlet for you.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, that's certainly something I describe my layout all the time to people that visit that don't know model railroading. You know, like the whole concept is new to them. I always describe it as an artistic outlet. Mm-hmm. You know, because I think everybody will understand what that is. You know, like I can't paint a painting to save my life, but I can build models, and it sort of serves the same purpose, you know? But I think that goes with the history too. I mean, like, you know, I love, one of the reasons why I model something as close to prototype as possible is because I really enjoy the history. You know, I really enjoy saying, I'm going to build this thing, or this caboose or whatever, but I'm going to go look at pictures of it for days and like try to, you know, like, when was it rebuilt? Why was it painted that way? When did that window get added? Like, you know, I love researching that kind of stuff. And so to me, being accurate is a huge piece of it. But at the same time, the artistic license to me comes in from, like, this is your own world you're creating, right? Like, I don't have to build someone else's railroad. You know, if I want to change it, well, change it, you know? But I think that what I like about it, and this could be different for anybody, is I want there to be a story. Like, I don't find interest personally in totally freelancing. You know, I like this. It's almost like historical fiction, but not to say there's anything wrong with totally freelancing. But to me, I like to have this guide, you know, but I like to be able to change something as long as I can come up with a reason.
Exactly.
You know, which is like the signal thing, like I just talked about. Like, you know, here's the story of why there's signals on my model railroad. It's not just because I thought they're neat, you know. So I like to sort of create that history too. I mean, I think historical fiction is actually a great way of looking at it, which I've never thought of until right now.
There you go. So your time hasn't been wasted here.
Yeah, exactly.
Most of it has.
But you know, there's most of it, right? Yeah. There's even things too where, like, you know, I'm building a model of a caboose right now that I've just always thought is cool, but it burned to the ground in 1969. So it never existed in the era that I'm building it.
Right.
But it could have.
Sure.
You know, if it was parked on a different track, I guarantee that thing would have still been in use.
I feel
12 years later.
Yeah, I feel like
why not? You know.
Yeah, I feel like prototype kind of goes at the top of the prototype pyramid is the equipment, and below the equipment is the structures, and below the structures is the actual track plan of the actual railroad, and below the track plan is the scenery and the overall ambiance of that particular railroad. So I feel like for most people, when they're talking prototype, what they really want to model is the equipment, and then it gets watered down from there, which of course is no crime. I mean, I think that's basically the beauty of the whole situation is, you know, you can model the fun of prototype modeling is the equipment and the structures. And then,
I would say, and the overall feel is a huge part of it too.
Mm-hmm. And that comes from the equipment and structures, and basically kind of trying to lay out the track plan roughly the way it was. Like, I'm looking at a picture of, I'm assuming it's Bennett because I see signals, and you know, I'm assuming you've kind of followed the rough track plan of the town, and I'm assuming in the town there was a turntable. Probably
there wasn't. That's a perfect example.
There you go. So now
they had a Y there, and I didn't have room for a Y, so I wanted a way to turn, so I put a turntable in.
Okay, all right, yeah, because the layout's only 18 inches wide.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, there you go.
Yep.
Yeah, it's the equipment, really.
But the turntable is a model of the Durango turntable. So, you know, for me, even that was a here's I'm going to model a thing that I know, you know. So
yeah. But I think that's, like people, I think basically what I'm trying to say is if you're kind of new to building a layout and you want to do prototype, concentrate on the equipment and and water it down from there, because you don't try to build the thing. It's not possible. It's really not possible.
Well, two good examples that you just brought up is like the track plan is fantastic. I mean, like we all as modelers, other than maybe 0.01%, have got to selectively compress track. Like this siding at Bennett is like 3/4 of a mile long. I mean, that's longer than my entire layout, right? If you scale it down, there's no way I can model that. And I think there's very, very few people out there that are modeling truly scale track plan. You know, you think about if someone's modeling modern era or whatever, you know, siding on the BNSF is 10,000 feet long. That's your whole basement.
Yeah.
You know, that's just it. They exist, but they're really uncommon. So we all make those kinds of choices of like the track plan is not going to be totally true, but you know, for my Bennett model, for example, you know, it has all the tracks that existed at Bennett. They're all too short and they're not on the same curve that Bennett's on, but they, you know, they give the feeling of the S curve that's in Bennett. But in actual Bennett, the curve is almost 90 degrees, right? Which I just didn't have space for that. So you get the feel of it, right? And I think scenery is another really good example where like I tried to be very, very true to the scenery as I modeled it, but that doesn't mean I modeled this particular tree and it goes right there.
Right.
And this tree goes there. I mean, I modeled the types of trees, the colors of the ground cover, the color of the rock, you know, that's all true to photography, but it's not like you're, you know, when you're modeling a locomotive or something, you can really get into the nitty gritty of like this particular horn was on it and it sat right there, but we're not going to do that for this rock and this tree and this shrub.
Yeah, because the one thing with the actual equipment, you can model it exactly to the size that it was because
Right.
that is a manageable size. A 40-foot boxcar can be a 40-foot boxcar, and a
Exactly.
60-foot boxcar can be a 60-foot boxcar, and a modern locomotive that's 90 feet long can be 90 feet long, and then but
Exactly.
quickly people get into structures, and a lot of structures you can't model
Right.
to the full size because
Right.
they're just unmanageable.
Like the Bennett Depot, for me, it's compressed. The way I compress, my layout's really long, but it's not really deep. So what I was able to do with that model is it's the correct length, but it's nowhere close to the correct depth. I had to compress it to fit on the shelf. If you look at it square from the front, then it's correct. But I don't know. I kind of, who cares, right? Is a little bit how I feel.
Sure, yeah, exactly.
Because it is your world, right?
Exactly, yeah. Like I think that's key. I mean, it's you're a master model railroader. You're a full-time. You're an engineer on the Durango and Silverton. You oversee the Polar Express. I mean, you've got a ton of really interesting qualifications to have this discussion with, because you get to live full-time one-to-one railroading. I mean, the first time we talked, you were out on the DNS diesels trying to clear the snow off the right of way. And I mean, so you have the experience of one-to-one railroading, plus you like doing it in 1/87th scale,
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
And Canada, Bennett is an abandoned town next to Bennett Lake. So there's nothing there now except the station. There must be somebody that lives there. Man, that'd be...
I don't think there is. No, I think they come in and out of the station.
Oh, really? Eh?
Carcross is the closest occupied town.
Yeah. Wow. So what? I know Kelly has a question he wants to ask you.
I'm still looking at the Facebook page. It's unbelievable.
And you have no... Okay, well, here's...
I'll ask a question.
Yeah, all right.
Since we touched on MMR, which certificates do you have for MMR?
Oh, geez. So I did... let's see. This is a test. I did electrical. I did civil.
Yep.
Dispatcher.
Yep.
Author.
Right.
Volunteer.
Right.
Scenery.
Right.
And cars.
Okay.
Is that right?
What
Yeah,
book
that's all.
did
Yeah,
you
like
write?
I've done a lot of magazine stuff. So
Oh,
I've written
okay.
for the Narrow Gauge and Shortline Gazette,
Mhm.
probably, I don't know, a dozen articles or so.
Wow.
I did an article for Great Model Railroads.
Time out.
Did one for
Time out.
Railroad Model Craftsman.
Time out. I don't have
Time
that.
out.
I don't have that on the list. I forgot to write that on the list.
Oh.
Being an author. All right, we'll cover that in this particular segment, and then because I. So how did you get involved? First off, why did you start pursuing the MMR, Master Model Railroader?
I had let's see. So another modeler here in Durango, Martin Piernot, is the one who kind of encouraged me to do that. I knew him through town, and we just got to know each other through modeling. And he was a big proponent of the program, and I didn't I knew of it. I didn't really know much of it specifically, other than I've heard of it, and this is probably 5 or 6 years ago now, but he was the one that kind of introduced me to it, and I don't want to say talked it up, because it was encouragement, but I started looking into it, and what I really like about the program, and is exactly what Martin tried to get me to, what he tried to explain to me too, is I think it's a really, really cool way to encourage yourself to work on projects that you might not otherwise tackle. Like for me anyway, I felt like it did a really good job of that. There were a lot of things that, especially the CARS certificate is a great example. I don't think that I really felt that I was a good car scratch builder modeler 5 years ago. And I just thought, all right, well, let me tackle it. I've got a lot of cars that I could scratch build for this railroad because none of them are available, so maybe I will tackle it. I'll give it a try. And, I think a lot of it just depends on whoever the local group is you're a part of and who the other folks are. And, having to get models judged and critiqued. And I actually really enjoyed that process because, I had some that weren't judged great, but it's a good learning experience, and it gives you that reason to try again.
Yeah.
So,
And it's my experience in it's I'm working on my last 3, but it's a way to judge yourself, but also improve your modeling skills.
Absolutely. Because it's not a competition against anyone other than yourself.
Exactly. And that's what a lot of people don't understand.
Right. And that's what I loved about it. I think the encouraging thing for me, like the electrical was the first certificate I did. And obviously with all these signals and things like that one, when I was reading through all the descriptions, like, well, I already did this. This is a matter of writing it up, so I did that one. And got the certificate, and it was a cool feeling. It's neat to be a part of a thing like that. And that was encouragement to be like, well, which one am I going to try next? And
wow.
I just kind of kept going, and I don't know, plugged away at it. One piece of advice I got from another really good friend and amazing modeler, Craig Symington. He's another one that really encouraged me into the MMR program. And he talked about how, don't force yourself to do any particular piece of the program. Do things that you actually want to model. Don't build a model just to get a certificate. Do things that are actually a part of your railroad. And if it takes 3 times as long to do it, that's fine. But the point is, it's supposed to encourage you within something you're already doing. So I really liked that part of it too. I mean, I thought about doing the structure certificate, and I started doing the structure certificate, but the cars got done first because there just weren't many structures on this layout. So I didn't really want to build a building just for the sake of building a building for a certificate. And I started down it, and I'll probably finish that one eventually. But it's all about just keep it interesting, right? Keep it something you actually want to do. And so it's not a project, right?
Right. So how did you meet Craig Symington?
Gosh, how did we originally meet?
I
met Craig.
I
have to think about this. I met Craig through a friend who worked for Soundtracks here in Durango. And then we've gotten to know each other through the National Narrow Gauge Convention. So he's been going to that for many years, and I have been too. So that's how we got to be good friends.
National Narrow Gauge Convention. Well, I see on your layout you have a little spot there where you have several model railroaders stored in a pile underneath the layout.
Yeah, that's just the sort of the bookshelf, so to speak.
Sure. Can I assume that the February 1994 edition is on the top of the pile?
Oh, I feel like I should answer yes.
Yeah, that a boy.
Yeah, you did good.
Good.
He's a keeper, Lionel.
Okay. So how did you end up start writing for narrow gauge? What's it called?
The Narrow Gauge and Short Line Gazette.
That's it. Yeah.
That was actually through Craig.
Okay.
Yeah, he so Craig's a columnist for it, so he's been writing for them for many years. And he encouraged me to write, the first article that I wrote. And he was, just, you have a cool model railroad, you should write something about it. And I thought, oh, maybe, all right. I kind of hemmed and hawed about it, and I don't know. It's just kind of become another facet of the hobby that I enjoy.
Right. So you enjoy being an author. You enjoy writing about the hobby.
Yeah, and it's also, the writing thing is a lot like I'll say about the MMR program, where to me it's like I'm happy to write articles about projects that I'm already working on, but I wouldn't want to do it if it was for the sake of writing the article, if that kind of makes sense. What I've really enjoyed is like, I kind of learned this from Craig, but every time I am working on a project now, I document it with a bunch of pictures, and I'm always taking notes about how did I actually do this. So in case I want to write it up as an article later, I've kind of got that, it's always sort of ready to go. And some projects I'll finish and be like, this turned out really cool. Maybe I'll turn all those notes into an article. So that's kind of how it is for me. And
that's a good idea.
I try to do, I don't know, 2 or 3 in a year, maybe. And it's a hobby. So if I don't hit it, I'm not,
right. Yeah.
It's just for fun.
You're not doing it for the money or the fame or anything like that.
No.
You're doing it strictly for the enjoyment aspect of it.
Exactly. Right. I mean, it's always fun to see your work get published, so there's some enjoyment part of that, but it's, what I like the most, actually, this is something that I got from Craig, but he said his favorite part, one of his favorite parts, I won't put words in his mouth. But you write an article and you see it published. It's more fun to see the next issue out and see if someone wrote a letter to the editor about it.
Right.
Oh yeah.
I love that part.
Cool. Yeah.
Someone says like, I really enjoyed reading this and I learned this and this, and I'd like to add blah, blah, blah. Like that's cool to me. Cause then, somebody's actually enjoying it, reading it, taking it for some,
Sure. Yeah.
So
that's
I like that part of it too.
For me, with the podcast, I love seeing people wearing Modeler's Life t-shirts.
Exactly.
We were at Springfield not that long ago, and you'll be walking through the crowd, headed one place or another, and somebody will pass you wearing a Modeler's Life t-shirt, and you're like, okay, so somebody is listening, and lots of times it's people I don't even know. Most of the time it's people I don't even know, which is really, really cool.
Exactly. It's much the same idea. Yeah.
Yeah.
Much the same. It's neat to know that like something that you're doing is, I don't know, making a difference or whatever you want to say. Someone else is enjoying it. And
right.
It's propagating the hobby in a way, right?
Yeah. And that pile of model railroaders I'm assuming under the February 94 issue is the November 96 issue?
It is. Yeah, that's right below it.
Yeah, right. Okay.
I'm gonna have to look.
You should lay those side by side.
Yeah.
Yeah, I bought a frame recently. I was going to both of those on the wall.
There you go.
Narrow Gauge and Shortline Gazette is still going. Is it owned by White River now?
It is, yeah.
How many years? Man, that's been going forever.
Yeah, I've been a subscriber to that for a while.
Have you?
Yeah, the Gazette.
Yeah.
I remember.
It's a very good magazine.
I used to buy it. I bought it years ago. I mean, it was always it was one of the ones, Narrow Gauge, and I'm typing now. This is one of the favorite parts of the podcast.
I want to see people really building stuff. That is the magazine.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. I've read it for many, many years, and that's always what got me into it too, actually, is I've always enjoyed Narrow Gauge, but I have always really enjoyed the craftsmanship of the stuff that's
Okay, I see what you're doing here. I got it now.
What am I doing here?
I dialed up narrow. It's ngslgazette.com. Narrow gauge short line Gazette, NGSL.
Yep.
Gazette.com. So I dialed that up. I got it up here. And right there on the front of it says November, December 2022, Mike May and Robert Bell collaborate to convert a pair of Australian diesels into White Pass and Yukon number 81. I got it now. Okay, I see where we're going.
I didn't plan that at all.
No, sure. Yeah, sure. Yeah. I wasn't, this is my first. Go ahead.
And Lionel, he was in the Great Model Railroads 2022 along with Tony Custard.
Oh, really?
Yep. And Pele, what is this? Pele Solberg, and the gentleman that has the Wyoming railroad, the big one.
Yeah, that one
down in Cornville, Arizona.
Eric Berman?
No, he's talking about is it Cornville?
No, it's not Cornville.
It's not
Cornville. It's Pele. It's Pele's UP thing that he did.
What are you talking about? The one in Arizona?
Oh, yeah.
What's the name of the town? It's not Cornville.
Cornville.
Is it Cornville?
Well, it's outside of Sedona. It's
just outside of Sedona, Arizona. Yeah.
Yeah. It's between Sedona and Cottonwood.
You have the best way to describe. The big Wyoming railroad there and down in Arizona. Yeah. Oh, yeah, that one.
That narrows it down.
Yeah.
Narrow gauge and short line Gazette 1975 was the first issue.
Really?
I was just looking at my.
So they're coming up to the 50th anniversary.
It's getting there, yeah.
Yeah.
How about that?
You should have.
And there was some stuff before that called fine lines that.
Yes.
Were precursors to it, I guess.
So number 81. Yeah, do you have number 81 on your layout?
I do.
Locomotive number 81. Man, that's ugly.
Isn't it?
It was so ugly I had to model it.
And man, what is that made out of? What was it? Was it must have been kind of it looks like it was made out of 2 or 3 different things.
The model or the original?
The locomotive, yeah.
The original locomotive was built for the Army, like the prototype.
Okay.
And it was an Army. It was a test, basically. It was a one-off. They were, trying to figure out diesel engines for export, and it was U.S. Army 3000, and that locomotive actually ran in Durango for a couple of years as the Army test ran it, and then it sat around, didn't get used, blah blah blah. White Pass eventually bought it off the Army to use as a switch engine.
So I can see a bunch of generals sitting around in the Army headquarters in Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
and they're going, what would happen if we built the ugliest locomotive on the planet?
Pretty much.
Would anyone notice?
Yeah, would anyone notice? Yeah, would anyone notice?
That's how they camouflaged it.
Yeah. Before we leave, okay, I'll ask you this question because I don't want to, there'll be another one off the list. That'd be 2 things on the list. We didn't even come close to cover.
I told you this was going to happen. You get the first question, you get 15 others, and
we didn't even get close. we didn't even get close to covering the whole thing about your layout, did we?
Probably not.
No.
Did you build your own CTC machine, or did Mike Burgett build it for you?
Mike Burgett.
Okay. And how'd you meet him?
Oh gosh, I've known Mike for a long time. Like, I grew up in Chicago,
right,
and Michigan. So just through, I don't know. Honestly, I couldn't even tell you. Through modelers in the area, somehow we got introduced. Like, we have so many different connections through different people. But I've known Mike for 20 years or something like that. So, yeah, we kind of co-built the CTC machine. I went over there for, I don't know, like a weekend or something with him, and we kind of hammered through it. He had the track diagram custom made already, and then we put the whole machine together when I was out there, and then I did all the wiring on the machine once I brought it back home. So
you went out to his house, his home.
Yeah.
Out there near where is he, near Pontiac, somewhere out there.
Near Pontiac, exactly.
Yeah. And you guys built the CTC machine in a weekend.
Pretty much. Well, at least the shell of it.
Yeah, the shell of it.
Took a lot longer to wire, but
Right. Okay. Was it hard to wire it up?
So that's the picture on your Facebook page of all the red wires? Is that the back of it?
Wow. That's it. Yep.
Is that
wow?
Did you have a question? Was that a
That
question?
was a question.
That was
Wow.
a question.
Wow.
Holy cow.
Wow.
Hey, Scott, you want to mark that up on the whiteboard?
Yeah.
I'll do it. There it is.
Attaboy.
You scrolled through all these pictures, and that was the only
That's
question
why he's been quiet.
I understand why he's been quiet, because he's been scrolling through. But my point would be, you've scrolled through all these pictures, and the best you could come up with was one question. I haven't got past the first. I haven't the first.
Well, I haven't even gotten it.
I haven't even
gotten to the signals and the telephone wire.
I haven't even gotten past the January 5th posting of the first operating session of 2023. I haven't even got past a posting
that's a real recent picture, isn't it?
Exactly. That's how far I've gotten when I'm scrolling. He sits there and says nothing and looks at all the pictures, doesn't ask any questions, doesn't bring up any points of interest. He just sits there quietly scrolling through the stuff while we're on an audio podcast saying nothing.
And the one with all the red wires?
Yeah, that's the question.
I did see that. I was impressed by the wiring.
I
It's
know.
amazing
That's
wiring
unbelievable.
job.
And you scrolled through all these pictures, and that's what you come up with. Is that the one with the red wires?
Well, he's got actually, there's two pictures on there. There's one, I don't know what the other one is, from the 15th.
You're missing the whole point.
September 15th.
You know what I mean?
I know.
I don't care.
That's why I get blamed.
I think he's got the point.
I don't think so. Seriously? I mean, this is like the fourth time I've yelled
do it.
at.
He's just he's playing it back at you. That's all.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is like wow. Is that the one with all the red wires? I found that picture. Why did you only use one color wire? Did you want to drive yourself nuts or something?
Yeah, pretty much.
Wouldn't it be?
I think with a project like that, I mean, I would have needed like 48 colors of wire. So it's just like, well, at this point, whatever.
He only had one color, it was red.
How would you keep track of all the wire when it's all red?
They numbered them.
When I do projects like that, I'll put like a little, like a masking tape flag on the ends of each wire.
Right.
Number it.
Okay, I don't see any masking tape. I don't see any masking tape.
Well, because they're off already. Everything's already where it's going. In those pictures.
All right, the picture I'm looking at from November 30th, 2022, I see a whole bunch of loose ends with nothing on them to indicate where they're going.
They're not actually loose. They're going. They're already fed through the eyelets of the terminals.
Oh, I see.
That's
Okay.
the back of it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I forgot Kelly's.
Otherwise, it would have been madness.
Yeah, I forgot Kelly's an expert on this. What an idiot I am. I'm an idiot. I am just like a complete idiot. Every time I do one of these, and I know there's people out there that don't like the way I do them, I'm thinking, I got to be more serious. And it's like, it's a lost cause. It's just not no. People are just way too interesting to be serious. We haven't even scratched the surface here.
Oh, man.
Oh, my God. Oof. Oh, that's how you found out he was 7'13", because you looked at that picture from October the 9th.
No, I knew that from the last one. Because I looked up, tried to see if he had an article in the NMRA magazine. And they skipped past him to 7'14" and whatever else was after that.
Oh, jeez.
So he never got interviewed or a picture in the magazine.
Oh, okay.
Might have to ask him about that.
Yeah.
You got gypped.
Call Gordy up. Talk to Gordy and say,
yeah, let's talk. Yeah, hey Gordy. Hey Gordy. What's going on? I know Gordy listens to all the podcasts and some of them twice.
That's a whole other episode.
It is. Yeah. It's a whole nother episode. I don't even know where to. This is. There's a picture on May 31st of a guy with glasses. Is that you? Do you wear glasses? That's not you, is it?
I don't know. May 31st. I'm going to just scroll back there.
Yeah, you find out. You didn't even put the guy's name on there.
Oh, geez.
Nice.
May 31st. That's a long time ago on here.
Yeah. Yeah. You didn't even put the guy's name on the picture or nothing.
Well, no, I'm trying to get back there. I'm in August now.
Go to media and just scroll through.
It's like scrolling back through viewer mail or the fans page. You just can't get there.
Well, no, the way to do it is to go to media and click on photos and go that way. Yeah. So you don't have any Rapido equipment on your layout?
I don't. I sure don't.
But if you were going to buy,
maybe I'll have to change that now that I'm a part of
exactly
this podcast.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you'd be on the fast track to model railroading fun.
Exactly. Rapido trains.
Your fast track to model railroading fun.
It always feels like I've thrown a 3-0 pitch.
A knuckleball.
No, a 3-0 pitch to you, and you're just like looking at it. It's right down the middle. You could have hit it all the way. You could have hit it
right down the middle.
And you're just you were taking all the way. You were just not even. You weren't going to swing no matter what it was. Boy, can you imagine what this podcast was like if we were even remotely professional?
Oh, absolutely.
So everybody, please remember that this free podcast, like pretty much everything in the AML Nation, is sponsored by our only sponsor, Rapido Trains. And
your fast track to model railroading fun.
There you go. And if you go to rapidotrains.com, boom, you'll be on that page where the 44-tonner is. I bet you eventually they'd like me to talk about something else. But holy mackerel, they are going to be.
Wait till the CPR D10s come out. Then you can talk about those.
All right, yeah. Well, there's so much to talk about on Rapido Trains. It's like, give me a break here. Come on, you guys. Like, come on. I'm kind of falling in love with that GN 40-foot boxcar. I'm thinking, man, that'd be a cool car to have. That'd be a cool car to put my ANLS on the side of it. I'm thinking I might be able to have to talk to them about that.
Oh, there you go.
So, Mike, I have a question.
Seriously?
Of course.
Really?
Yeah, I do. Because I found a picture.
Well, hang on a minute. Like, are you kidding? Like, are you just toying with me? Like, are you just like?
No, I'm.
Like, you really have a question?
Curious.
You really have a question?
I have a question.
Like, seriously? Like an actual question?
Yes.
Okay. Well, it only took an hour and 52 minutes.
I know. Hey, Mike, the picture, obviously, of the back of the CTC machine with the red wires. And then later on, you have a picture of the I guess it's the relay or wiring for the CDC, which is all blue wires and white wires.
Yep.
What is that for the system on the layout, or is that part of the CDC as far as the box?
So if we're talking about this, I think I know what the picture you're talking about, but that's the
South Bennett, or that's no, yeah.
So that's the actual, like, that's the circuitry for the signal interlocking itself. So the CTC machine essentially talks to that, and that's the circuit that's controlling the signals at that specific interlocking.
Oh, wow.
Which is, doing it about the most complicated way you can possibly do it. But again, I was saying, the whole signaling thing is kind of almost a sub hobby.
Yeah, like
for me anyway.
That's a great thing to talk about, though. On a 26 by 18-inch layout, you have signals, and it's not. You don't need a layout the size of the Onondaga cutoff or Tom Jacobs layout or anything like that. You can have a layout,
right,
a smaller layout, and enjoy signaling just as much, and all the wire. Because actually, if you understand why, it was actually one of my wiring was very simple, very, very simple. Mm-hmm. But it was one of the things I enjoyed about building the layout was making the wiring very easyable, very neat and clean, and easily traceable. I used to enjoy sitting under the layout doing the wiring. It was one of the things I actually enjoyed. And
I love it, so I totally understand.
Yeah, and I mean, you've got
a zen to it almost.
Yeah, there's a zen to it, and making it all work and all that stuff. It's not that much fun. Yeah. It's not that much fun when it doesn't work. But
that's absolutely true.
Yeah, neat and organized wiring is a lot of fun to have.
Yeah,
it is.
And the picture that you have on your Facebook page of the tank cars being pulled on the northbound train with the telephone poles in the background and the track. Oh, it's just all the stuff laying around. It's
Why are you talking? Why are you talking now? It's an hour and 50 minutes into this thing. Why?
I don't know.
Me neither. Me neither. Come on.
I'm going down different rabbit holes. I mean,
Well, go down the different rabbit holes at 35 minutes into the podcast, not at an hour and 50 minutes at the podcast. Dive into the rabbit hole early. Oh, my God. How many of these podcasts have you been on?
too many.
That was going to be mine.
Sounds like maybe he's asking for some vacation.
No,
Yeah.
my head, I'm like Ron Dyer and hit my head against the wall.
Why don't you take the train out of Bennett up to Whitehorse?
Oh, yeah.
Go up to the station there at Bennett and wait for the next train to Whitehorse. Why don't you do that?
Cool.
Bruce, can you give out our email address?
I'd love to give out our email address because I know there'll be a ton of people wanting to ask questions of Mike, unlike a certain party in the studio here.
Oh, nice.
Send your questions and comments to modelerslife@gmail.com. That's modelers with one L. modelerslife@gmail.com.
Tables?
Yes, sir.
I don't want to insult you.
Oh my God.
Well, I don't, but I think
bring on the cat.
I think you kind of speak Kelly's language. Could you? You speak Kelly, don't you?
I've been dabbling in it. Yes.
Yeah, dabbling in it. Well, Mike,
Never a dull moment.
and now, Mike, you've been exposed to two of these now. What do you think?
Oh, I think it's a great time. I mean, we have 30 more to do to hit that 32.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, let me see
That
what we.
might get it. That could possibly.
Oh, and I didn't get to talk. I didn't talk to you about we talked to you about Narrow Gauge and Shortline Gazette, which wasn't, and being an author, which wasn't on the list. And I was going to talk to you about the diesels, buying the diesels for the Durango and Silverton, but I didn't get to that either.
Yeah.
So we actually crossed off one thing off the 14 item list.
That's par for the course.
Yeah, sounds about
Well,
right.
we talked
That
about
does
going.
sound about right.
We talked about going to Alaska too.
We did. We added that.
Yeah.
And that was a fun trip. We really had fun doing that.
What, you and Mike or us in general?
All of us.
Oh, okay.
As a group talking about Alaska, that was really interesting.
Yeah, because you actually jumped in there. I mean, it was a little bit painful, but you jumped in and had lots to add to that part of the conversation. So,
Not really, but
I thought so. I enjoyed your input on that part of the conversation.
okay, cool.
Yeah. Can you imagine if, like, say, 5 or 10 minutes after that, then Kelly had jumped in on a
Said,
particular,
I was there the same day you were there.
or covered a
With a question.
spoke
With
up
a-
about
with a
another
question.
another topic we were talking about. Imagine if Kelly had jumped. Man, this thing would have. Can you imagine that, Bruce? What a great podcast this
This
would
would
have
have
been.
purring like a cream-filled cat.
Yeah, exactly. I apologize,
Wow.
Mike. Mike, I'm sorry.
Oh, there's nothing to apologize about.
Yeah, wait till you listen
It's
to
all
this.
my fault.
Wait till you listen to this, buddy.
Yeah, you may want to rethink.
Yeah, you might have a different outlook once you listen to this.
Or see the fan mail.
Yeah, exactly. So so we covered Rapido Trains. Everybody go to rapidotrains.com and make sure you buy something there and tell them Lionel sent you. You might get
Exactly.
a 10% increase in price.
Yeah, they got to pay the bill somehow.
Yeah, exactly. Tell them Lionel sent you. Tell them Modeler's Life sent you. We gotta figure out something. Maybe they'll send you a T-shirt, a pre-shrunk T-shirt. And if you didn't catch the email address, if you go to our website, amodelerslife.com, and scroll down just a little bit to the picture of the moderately agitated mailboy in a particularly agitated state, and just click on that picture, boom, the email address will already be filled in. All you got to do is fill in your subject line and your text and hit send, and away you go. Now you're going to get an email read on viewer mail. And Mike, I got a question for you.
Go for it.
Have you ever wanted a hot T-shirt with a hot dog on it? Or have you ever wanted a hot dog with a T-shirt on it?
Yeah, that might be interesting.
I think that sounds great.
Have you ever wanted a T-shirt with a hot dog on it?
I mean, I've never had one, so I feel like it'd be a great thing to add to the collection.
I think it would be a great thing to add to the collection. Well, you just go to Midwest Model Railroad, and their URL is midwestmodelrr.com. And you go across the navigation bar and click on Other. And that window will open, and then it'll say AML Merchandise, AML Nation. And you can click on there, and boom, in there you're inside a wonderland of merchandise. Hats, hoodies, T-shirts, mugs, and in there you'll find a T-shirt with a hot dog on it. But the key is Stephen Atwell. You have to scroll across the navigation bar. Stephen Atwell owns Midwest Model Railroad. You have to scroll across the navigation bar, Stephen Atwell, and click on Other. Somehow we're listed under Other now. Not happy. Not happy about that. We had our own little spot. We were like AML. Boom, you clicked on AML, but now we're on Other.
Other.
Yeah.
Technology.
No.
Yeah.
No, that's not technology. That's not technology. Somehow
Everything keeps changing everything.
Yeah, somehow puzzles and games are more important than what. Yeah. I find that
that's
hard.
not technology.
No, that's not technology. That's bad. That's bad choices. Stephen Atwell, be careful with the choices you make in life.
Yeah, because you're walking a fine line, young man.
Yeah, exactly. Other, yeah, like Other.
I could be Other, but not the AML Nation.
Yeah, exactly. Well put.
I'd be happy being an Other, but not the Nation.
Yeah, there you go. Thank you very much, Scott. I think we got her all covered. Have we not, Bruce?
Well, what happens if somebody really enjoys this podcast and wants more?
Oh, yeah. If you go on the website and you click on Patreon, boom, you'll discover that for just a few cents a day, that you can, let's say a few cents a day. For just a few cents a day, less than 20, you can have twice as much podcasting every week. Instead of just the free one on Monday, you can get one on Tuesday, and that's our Antics channel. Are you a Patreon member, Mike? Have you ever? When do you have time? You know what? When you're flying across the country next November and December, doing the Polar Express thing, you could be listening to podcasts.
I think that's a great idea.
I think so too. I think we've just improved your entire year. 2023 is going to be a banner year for you, because at the end of the year, when you're flying around the country supervising the Polar Express, you're going to be able to get on the plane and you go, oh man, another 2 hour. Oh, wait a minute. I can listen to some of the podcasts from the Patreon channel on the AML.
I think that's perfect.
I think so
There
too.
you go.
Boom.
I'm going to have to sign up today.
And besides getting the extra podcasts, you have access to the Wednesday night AML chat.
Yeah, there's a bunch of guys that get together every Wednesday night and talk about model railroad, and they're from all over the world. You could do that too. Gordy, the NMRA president's on there oftentimes, and it's a great time. I think we're going to stop now. So, Mike, can you come back for another episode?
I would love to.
Okay.
I'd be honored.
Kelly, are you available for another episode?
Sure. As long as it's not on the Tuesday nights where I have meetings. That's the usual.
So the next one's going to be a Tuesday night, then?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, that's pretty much a given.
Yeah, I know. Oh, it's me.
How about you, Tables? Are you available for another episode?
I'm always available.
There you go. Attaboy. And Bruce is always him and I are going to be talking to Rob Fell at some point at 11 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. 7 hours.
You know what that time is?
Right now, well, it's 7 hours difference.
Yeah.
Okay. What time is that?
But you actually know there is an 11 a.m.
Whoa. That was a bit low. Yeah, that's a bit. Yeah.
Zing.
Yeah. That one hurt. Come on, buddy.
That was hurtful.
By 11 a.m., I was in Main Street, USA, trying to, panhandling for money because I lost all my life savings on the Super Bowl.
Super Bowl.
So should have listened to you, Scott.
You should have.
All right. Are you ready, Mike?
I'm ready.
All right. So at the appropriate time, we need you to say "Happy Rails" to you. Now, the key to this is there's no singing, there's no dancing, there's no interpretation of any kind. It's simply "Happy Rails" to you, said with enthusiasm.
Okay, I think I got it.
All right. Well,
but no singing.
Yeah, and
no dancing.
Yeah, no dancing, no singing, no dancing, which is particularly difficult for you because you're show people.
I have never once performed on stage. I stay well out of the light behind the curtain.
You're show people.
Show people.
Show people. You show people.
So, Kelly, are you available for the next another episode?
Yeah, I can be available.
But not on Tuesday.
Well, second, third Tuesday.
I love how he says that, like as if I'm writing it down somewhere. All right. Well, Mike, as we close the barn doors on another episode of A Modeler's Life, and the sun slowly sets over the back 40, I guess there's nothing else left to do except for you to say,
Happy Rails to you.
While in Busted Knuckle, guests of A Modeler's Life podcast stay at the Casa del Sol Motor Court and Inn, where late-night dancing at the Rumba Room is a magical event to be experienced.
It's another Lincoln Homer.
Oh, he said that kind of fast, like he kind of wanted to get out of here.
I was going for enthusiasm.
Were you?
Yeah.
I thought it seemed more like you were going for a world.
That's my interpretation. It was enthusiasm.
Got it.
I thought he was going more for like a Bonneville Salt Flats world record for speed.
No.
That's
that would be good.
Yeah, that was that way. And if I find out you set the world record for 800cc motorcycles at the Bonneville Salt Flats, we're not talking to you ever again.
Yeah, no, that doesn't happen.
Well, that's one thing you haven't done.